Afternoon and welcome to Monday's Musings. It is just gone lunchtime in the UK. My name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the collective energies for this week and how best to navigate them. That felt like a much needed pause and added action this week, which kind of feels like key to pause and see if there is actually any action needed to what is occurring around us. I don't know about anybody else, but these last 3 or 4 days, particularly over the Easter weekend, with the Libra full moon, with the change in weather, there has been a real change and shift in the energy that I've been experiencing. Just wait for that train to go by. I've really felt a movement in the very ground that I walk, in the belly of Pachamama beneath me. I've really felt a deep, deep division between what was and what is to come, not only within myself, but reflected around me as well. And in that awareness, I've also acknowledged that this weekend in particular, every time I've gone back to old patterns, old behaviors, old ways of being, rather than a knee-jerk reaction of, oh, I don't want to be here, or an energetic response, the impact has been quite profound. So for argument's sake, I went to my sister's yesterday and she didn't have dairy-free milk. And on a whim, for the last 9 months or so, I've been cutting out dairy. It just felt right for my body. I'd love to say it was because of A, B, and C. It was actually by listening to my body. And I've been cutting it out. And yesterday, a couple of cups of tea, basically with dairy in. And by the time I got home, I actually had to take an antihistamine. It was having quite an adverse reaction in my body. So what it really brought to light for me was how much change had occurred energetically within me without me realizing. I also had a conversation with a really, really dear friend and believed that I was reacting in a negative way based on my old experiences of interacting with others. And I was on the verge of apologizing this morning, and Spirit guided me to listen to the actual message from an observer point of view, which feels like the other key this week, to observe what is actually going on, to really see and witness what is going on for ourselves and collectively. And listening to the message without being so enthralled in my own trauma, in my own journey, in my own responses, but actually observing myself. There was no malice there. There was no judgment there. It was two people having a very open debate and conversation. That felt like key. And what had happened when I believed that I'd been a certain way in that conversation is the energetic response within my body, much like the dairy, was profound. Absolutely profound. It felt like years worth of work in a split second. Which brings me on to this division that I'm feeling. It does feel like if we go back to how things were, and that's going to be an individual thing, there's no judgment there. For those of us that it no longer suits energetically, physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever, spiritually, you're going to get that real immense reaction to it. And it feels like a soul energy saying, no, we're not going back there anymore. Not back as in it being a negative thing or a positive thing, but actually we've kind of outgrown that. And the analogy that I got this morning was a shoulder dystocia, a delivery of a head that's come out but can't quite get out because its shoulders are stuck, and it's going backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And what happens ultimately is there's less oxygen, there's less air, there's less different thoughts, there's less spirit going to that creation. Okay, so really avoiding the knee-jerk reaction to go back. So why would we want to do that in the first place? Sometimes there can be things for us to learn. Always there are things for us to learn, but sometimes we can believe that there is more to learn in a situation than what there actually is. And that comes from old patterns and old behaviours. So last night I dreamt that I was a midwife again and that I was back in theatre because I didn't have my licence for midwifery anymore. So my role was to observe theatre. It was to observe the drama, if you will, on a metaphorical level. And I could really feel that. And this morning I've really woke up with that knowing of observing the drama around me, but observing the plays that I play out as well, and my role within that. When we're in a space of transition, when we're in a space of that division, it can be very, very tempting. And again, there's no judgment there. If you do find yourself replaying what's going on, there is an element of trust there, but it can be very, very tempting to replay what is occurring because of the silence, because of the waiting for that reaction, waiting for that conversation, if you will, with that creative conversation to give back what is required in order to move forward. So much like a contraction, making the most of that lull in between the expansion and the growth. As a species, we are not taught to be okay in the space of being. Even though we are human beings, we are very much human doing. And that does come from a fight or flight reaction. That does come from centuries of having dinosaurs, or not dinosaurs, but creatures chasing us and having to, fight for what we believe in, fight for what we need, fight for our rights, and this constant conflict and war with ourselves and our surroundings. Things are changing. They have changed. I can really, really feel that. And what I really feel this week is an opportunity to allow our body to adapt to the changes that have occurred, and to do that, to be the guardian of where we are at. So why wouldn't we do that? What I'm seeing a lot coming up of late is not quite being where we want to be in this moment, having a vision of where we want to be, not quite being there, and seeing that as a reflection of we haven't done enough work, we're not good enough, we haven't cleared enough, we haven't got rid of our trauma, we haven't got rid of our stories, we haven't got rid of this, we haven't got rid of that, we haven't stuck to things, we haven't committed enough, we haven't dedicated enough. The biggest emphasis behind it being self-worth. The biggest emphasis behind it knowing that in any moment we are good enough, and that we are a work or love in progress. That does mean that there's times that things occur that we don't like. From our own judgments, we may behave in a certain way, we may react in a certain way, we may do something that we think, oh, why did we do that? We've been eating really healthy, and then we have dairy, and we have that reaction. Or we've been very, very mindful of what's been occurring, and we suddenly snap at a reaction of something, and we thought we'd done that work on that. And that comes with a lot of judgment. But it's remembering that each time this happens, it is an opportunity to grow. It is contractions of growth, rather than going back to judging ourselves on an even deeper level and adding to that energy. It is very much this week about observation. So we're 8 minutes in, and I almost felt like everything slowed down then. When I wanted to drink from my cup, everything slowed down. I couldn't quite get my mouth to what it was I was trying to feed from. When we appreciate the pauses, rather than going and collecting dramas or getting caught up in things because we're bored, or because we're not used to the silence, or because when we're in the silence there's trauma that we may not have faced, or emotions that we may not have faced or may not like rise to the surface, and with our own judgments we want to get rid of them for whatever reason. When we are in the lull, in between those expansive times, and that is what's happening. That's what I see, almost two worlds: expansive times. Okay, when we are in between, and a lot of us are, we're not how things were, and we're not quite where we'd like to be, or where we'd like our world to be. We're in between. When we're in between that expansive time, everything slows down. And we can really look at what it is we want to bring in, really look at what it is we are feeding from now, really look at how we are nurturing ourselves and embodying the changes that we wish to see around us. So, like I say, we are nearly 10 minutes in, and there's an awful lot there of my own story, and that feels very relevant this week as well, to acknowledge what part of it is our own story and what part to share, what part doesn't need to be shared, what part is actually relevant. So, we're going to step away from all of that, and we're going to look at the energies this week collectively. And as always, take on board anything that resonates and let go of anything that doesn't. Although I am seeing the Seven of Swords at the top of the pack, maybe looking at why it doesn't resonate. Are we past that now? It feels like that's really going to come up to light this week. What are we actually past? You know, if we are, then it won't trigger us. It's as simple as that. And if anything does trigger us this week, then yeah, there could be something there, and it might just be acknowledgement that it still triggers us. You know, ideally, we can move forward with everything being perfect and everything how we want it to be, but the biggest emphasis is actually on moving forward, and some things will change as we do that. Some things don't have to be in place before change happens, they happen as we change. And that really comes from that energy of needing to be perfect, needing to be perfect first. An awful lot of us, it feels, don't quite realise that actually things are perfect enough to change now and to move forward. Yeah, 8 of Cups and 8 of Coins here. An awful lot of work on moving forward and feeling that we need to let this go and that go before we move forward. But actually in moving forward, you know, the work already begins. It already begins in the moving forward, and underneath we have the Four of Pentacles, and it is that holding on to that need to move forward, holding on to everything having to be a certain way before we can do that. And actually just by moving forward, we are, my throat went really funny then, we are commencing the work already. We are creating because we have the Empress underneath. Okay, so this week in particular, any energy that comes up that is very much of the old ways, whether that's your thoughts, your patterns, your diet, your energy, your emotions, reflections around you, whatever it may be, I can see a rainbow. Become the rainbow of that now. Allow those energies to move forward by just looking at your own rainbow body. Lots of healing this week, lots of shifting this week. Yeah, and just moving on from it, just observing it. Temperance, thank you. Yes, there took a little time there, a little pause there, and I can see the number 8 now, and that's going to be necessary this week, that time and that pause, without filling in the gap from that knee-jerk reaction to fill in the space, allowing that time and that pause, that infinite flow, and then becoming temperance, the rainbow, balancing things out by observing, by witnessing, ourselves included. Okay. So yes, I'm very aware that I'm looking at the energies now this week because I'm wondering, have I done enough? And I'm very acutely aware of that. So being aware of that this week, what are you doing and where are you doing it from? Is it because you feel like you haven't done enough? And we have the Two of Cups, so very much in regards to relationships on the Monday. On the Tuesday, in regards to our finances, our place here, what it is we are trying to seed and develop, because we have the Ace of Coins. Just need to shift that energy. Excuse me. On the Wednesday, we have the Five of Swords, and it was just as I felt like I needed to shift that energy. So it's this mental mindset this week in regards to our relationships, our physical relationships with ourselves, our body, the earth, and each other. That Five of Swords, that conflict, that war there, you know, really needing to shift that energy, coming from a place of not feeling good enough or that something isn't enough, really looking at our own view in regard to that. On the Thursday, the Queen of Cups, flowing, nurturing our emotions, recognizing where we're at. So this morning I woke up really not quite feeling that great, to be honest. I'm really fed up of where I was in my current situation. Rather than make that better, rather than judge myself for feeling that, I went into that, and the guidance this morning was very much good. Go into that and recognize that you have had enough. Stop doing this now. Yeah, and going into those feelings, really acknowledging where you are this week, in particular on the Thursday, but all throughout the week, and how that impacts your relationships with yourself, with source, with each other, with whatever it is you're trying to manifest, and really looking at your thoughts behind it. Where is the struggle? Where is the internal war coming from in regards to your thoughts? On the Friday, we have the Five of Cups, and we really have, so at the beginning of the week, we have that beautiful opportunity of flourishing relationships in the Two of Cups. Can you see that? It's quite a blur. Just about see it. There we are. So you have the Venus sign almost looked like a moon behind it, and you have a beautiful reflection here of what could be possible, a real deep celebration and union. But by the Friday, we have the Five of Cups, and this character here is holding on to those Two of Cups. She's clinging to them. She's not allowing them to rise. She's really, really holding on to them for fear of loss, of what we see to be so beautiful. When we can see something that is absolutely beautiful, we almost get that feeling of, am I good enough for this? Am I worthy of this? And that can make us cling to old thoughts, old patterns, old beliefs, but also the very thing that we love, and restrict it, stopping it from flowing and rising and being what it wants to be on the Friday in particular. Oh, the card I've turned around the wrong way. On the Saturday. So on the Saturday, we have the Seven of Cups. We've gone from these two cups, from this relationship with ourselves, this relationship with others, this relationship with our emotions, our place here. And we're starting to see that actually that's what's impacting. Our emotions is what impacts everything. Now, very, very blurry picture here. Yeah, just about see it. And it's ironic that the cups seem very blurry. The emotions this week feel very blurry, but what's making them blurry is the light that's being shone on them. Okay, so really having them emphasized this week in particular may leave us questioning what we feel, because it's about taking it to that next level of intuition now. I can really feel that almost like a flu type symptom, like a light upgrade there by the weekend. If we can allow these emotions to flow, these stagnant ones can then also be released, and we can allow that new to come in, and that could very much empower us to look at what is actually real in our life now. If we let go of all these stories, who would we actually be? And then on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we have the King of Cups. So I love how last week we had the masculine and the feminine in regards to our thoughts. And this week we have the masculine and feminine in regards to our emotions, the Queen of Cups and the King of Cups. And it is about flowing there and holding what is true and real to us, our own authentic self. If we can hold on to that, in those pauses, like I struggled to drink from the cup, if we can hold on to our soul emotion, regardless what is occurring around us, in those moments of pause, in those moments of chaos, in those moments of nothingness and change, if we can really hold on to who we are and be held in who we are, it does feel in relation to the masculine, which is definitely something I mentioned to my friend this morning, actually, does feel in relation to healing of the masculine. If we can really flow with our actions by being who we are this week, by the end of the week, then yeah, we have that beautiful balance of that nurture and our own actions in regards to how we feel. So the energy overall for this week, we have the Ten of Coins, which did come up last week, but this week what I notice is the tulips. Yeah, I noticed the tulips there, and I can't quite see what the treasure is. And that could be a real emphasis this week. What am I actually gaining this week? What am I actually sharing forward? I can't quite see the treasure, but what I can see is those beautiful flowers that have blossomed. Yeah, and really, really focusing, taking time to literally smell the roses this week is what will bring forward treasures that may have been hidden in regards to a situation, making the most of that time, that gap, that pause, to really acknowledge what is going on. So at the bottom of the pack, we do have the Queen of Swords, and there is a little underlying energy there of almost wanting to have it all figured out, a calculating energy there. And, you know, it's great to look at our thoughts and acknowledge where we are in regards to our mindset, but sometimes we can overthink, not sometimes, but most times we can overthink what we're feeling, and that can give something a story when it is purely energy that needs to be shifted or moved or acknowledged or expressed. And you know, there's a difference between the Queen of Swords that wants it all figured out. She's a very younger version, and we're going to say immature version of the Queen of Swords. And then there's the Queen of Swords that is the witness, that doesn't need to figure it out. She is observing it for what it is. And this week in particular, it feels very much deciding what witness you are going to be. Are you watching what is occurring so that you can figure it out because you need to know what is actually going to happen? Or are you doing it from a place of trust and flow this week? So overall, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cup cards. We have that real turning point, that halfway mark in regards to our emotions this week. But also remember, we have 5 cups, which is the 5 of cups. And that could be that real, I want to move forward. I don't know how to move forward. I need to figure out how to move forward. What do I need to do to move forward? That's very much holding on to it all being about us being the thing that needs to move forward. We're a vessel for these emotions. We are not the emotions. Okay, so really, again, that difference between figuring it all out and observing as a vessel for what is occurring here will be the real difference in regards to change this week emotionally. We then have 1, 2 pentacles, so beautiful balance there with the pentacles, and it's the ace and the 10 of pentacles. So if you can't figure out what the treasure is, what it is you share, take time out, really connect to your own physical body, to what is occurring, and decide what you need. You know, it's the old saying, find a need, fill a need. Normally, the very thing that is causing the emotional reaction within us is something that we can help others with. So if we acknowledge what we're feeling and we allow this creative energy to flow, chances are not only will we receive our own medicine, we will receive medicine that we can then share with others. Okay, so really, really important to feel into what it is you're feeling this week, not just for yourself, but for that progression, that forward movement that it is you may be trying to achieve. And then we have 1 sword card. Let me just double check. No, we have 2 because we now have the Queen of Swords. And the 5 of Swords speaks of that battle. And on this card, it is with the masculine. Yeah. And then we have the Queen of Swords here. And it is deciding now what type of witness you are going to be. Are you going to be the peaceful warrior that can observe what is going on and act as and when is needed just by observing? You know, because there's great power in being heard and just listened to and observed without being bombarded with opinions and views and emotions. Let's face it, emotions of other people. Or do you need to have it all figured out first? And is that causing that disconnection from yourself and source, or yourself and your higher self, or your flow, because you have to have it perfect first before you move forward? There is a time and a place for that, by all means, and there is, you know, a balance needed this week of figuring out what you actually do need in place to move forward, but also recognizing where some of that is coming from a fear of moving forward, a doubt whether or not you can move forward, and a need to control the situation. Okay, so no major arcanas this week. Very, very much about the individual, very, very much about us individually. Yes, collectively that will have an impact, but unless we recognize where we're at, there is no point discussing the collective, because it will always be that constant, this person did that, or this is what's occurring outside, da 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 da. So it is really about acknowledging our own stories this week, and then the impact that that has on our external environment. So this morning I could very much have been, and I was at first, you know, the noise outside is too much, blah blah blah, I can't concentrate, I can't this, I can't that, I've had enough. All that was really needed was to acknowledge that I'd had enough of my current situation and the noise, and to take time out and be quiet and peaceful. Okay, so going to use the Light Seers deck, and we're just going to look from a soul level if there is anything else. And we're going to use the medicine wheel for that. That feels really, really quite beneficial to actually look at where you may be on your own medicine wheel this week. Are you in your mind? You know, is that a space of unknown there? Is it ancestral? Is it your thought process? Are you in your passion, your drive, your spirit? Is there new beginnings available to you? Are you in a place of healing? Shedding of old stories, you know, in regards to who you are here in the South? Or are you at a place of being ready to move forward now? Are you truly in the West, in the place of Otorongo, you know, and yeah, tracking that change in your body? So where are you on your medicine wheel? Okay, where are we collectively on our wheel? What is going on here? So in the center, we have the star card, and it is very much about bringing down that higher vision collectively. We are at a point of bringing in that new world, and that is why we have that polarity here of what was and what wasn't, because we are still in that process of holding on and trying to cool down that vision. Okay, and this is where the buck stops with us. It is really at that transition point. It is really at that crowning part of delivery, knowing only you can do this, only we can do this, and that is really going to take us to the next level on a soul level here. So where are we at collectively with our mind? Judgment. There's still an awful lot of judgment there, and it is about rising above that when it comes to the unknown, when it comes to ancestral things. When, you know, we're talking Siwa Kenti here, we're talking hummingbird. What does judgment do? It stops us from being a hummingbird. It stops us from feeding from the nectar of life. Yeah, it makes us feed from the old stories. And it's very much this week in particular, mentally, to move beyond that now on ourselves and on each other. The best way to do that is to just allow people to have their opinions, their reality, their journey. Yeah. If we want, like myself this morning, less noise, make less noise. Yeah. So in the east, we have the Chariot, which is just beautiful. So, you know, in the place of Apichin, you know, the eagle, the mountains, the ability to see above what is going on. We do have the Chariot here, and it's that recognition of knowing that as we move forward individually, so do we collectively, the conscious and the subconscious mind. And there's a lot coming up in the dream times this week in particular in regards to the subconscious mind and healing that is occurring, and recognizing the impact that has in your daily life, but also knowing that you are steering yourself and that is steering the universe. Beautiful, beautiful card to have in the place of moving forward and new beginnings. It is water. The Chariot is water. We are the crab. It's that sideways approach to things. It may not feel as if things are moving forward, but it is emotionally really feeling into what is going on. The last few days, I've had a lot of what I would call motion sickness. That is how I felt. And it is because things are moving. It is because things are moving, and being really aware of what it is you're actually feeling, not just the mental aspect, but what you're actually feeling without the stories and the understanding of it. So in the south, we do have our first minor arcana. In the place of healing and our place here, serpent, we have Two of Wands, and we do have that ability now to move forward. Okay, on a human level, if we can shed the past. And in the West, we have the Three of Cups, that celebration. So again, another minor arcana. So it does look at the moment with this celebration and this birth and this bringing it all together. You know, I see the Star card here, and it does feel as if the vision isn't going to be achieved alone. We know this. Surely we know this, that our vision individually is a collective vision. Yeah, and really seeking out the help with that this week, but on a soul level, knowing that it is our past, present, and future that's going to help this vision, really embodying all of that in the West. So on a soul level, collectively, our soul is bringing down the vision that we require for ourselves and our own potential and our own advancement here. Mentally, there is still a lot of judgment for us to rise above, and the universe is going to help with that this week because it's a major arcana. This needs to happen collectively, it needs to shift for us collectively. So it's going to come up in our week to look at the judgments that we may have on ourselves or on each other. And it's funny because I said come up in our week, and I felt the word weak as in not strong, and seeing judgments compassionately this week in particular, not as a weakness, but actually for the lessons that they can be. That's going to be the ultimate rise above it. The universe is also helping us collectively with new beginnings in regards to the chariot, the chariot, and our ability to navigate what is occurring with ourselves and with each other. And that is going to come up this week in particular. Movement that may not feel like it's movement, but actually really trusting the signs and synchronicities from the universe this week. Then the rest is down to us. How we choose to move forward with our own healing is a minor arcana. That is down to us, the Two of Wands. What we choose to let go of in the West in regards to our egoic mind and our emotional, mental energy is all based on what we choose to celebrate and create. And that is down to us because, again, it is a minor arcana. And I just asked if the universe had anything else to add to our soul's wheel today. And the card that we have is the Hermit. Really going within, because when we go within, we notice that actually the very star that we're trying to pull down is ourselves. Really, really delivering our own potential, our own soul's potential this week by deciding to move forward and celebrate everything that has occurred without judgment, without expectation, and just embracing the silence, embracing the gaps in between for what they are. Take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I shall see you with next week's Monday's Musings. Take care.